Boys are falling behind in education. Here are some numbers that indicate that. When it came to the number of students sitting for the Matric exam, there were more girls sitting for the exam than boys. The difference, in fact, was 77,000. There were 405,000 girls writing the exam versus 327,000 boys writing the exam, indicating that more boys actually dropped out throughout the course of the learning experience. When you look at the bachelor's passes, they were 146,000 girls getting a bachelor's pass versus 109,000 boys. That's a significant difference of close to 35,000. When you look at the maths and the physical science, the difficult subjects, there were more girls doing mathematics by a difference of 40,000. There were more girls doing physical science. And then when you look at the distinctions, highest level of achievement, 65%, close to 66% actually, of the distinctions were obtained by girls versus boys. Now, this is not just a South African issue. This actually is a trend that has been identified across a lot of advanced economies. And in fact, there is a book that has been written by an academic named Richard Reeves called Of Modern Men, where he explains these global trends in the under-attainment of education by boys in particular. And it's actually an interesting book. I do recommend it. Now, here is his explanation for why this happens at high school.
It is quite clear that girls' brains develop more quickly than boys' brains do, and that the biggest difference seems to occur in adolescence. So what happens is in adolescence, we develop what neuroscientists call the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex of our brain is sometimes known as the CEO of the brain. It's the bit of your brain that says you should do your chemistry homework rather than going out to party. It's the bit of your brain that says it is worth maintaining a high GPA because it will help you get to college, which might help you in the future. And that bit of the brain develops considerably earlier in girls than in boys, between 1 and 2 years earlier, partly because girls go into puberty a bit earlier than boys, and that seems to trigger some of this development.
Now, to give my view on why we are seeing this in the South African context in particular, and also just broadly in the African context. Number one is because of the way patriarchy is actually practiced in African countries. Oftentimes, boys are told to go play outside. Boys are not given responsibilities in the household. And as such, they don't learn a work ethic, and they don't learn to actually have delayed gratification and discipline in the way that girls are. Girls are often being given responsibilities in the home to look after siblings, to cook, to clean, whereas boys sometimes are being just told to go play outside. And that doesn't create in them the muscle memory to have that kind of work ethic which is required for high performance. And when you get to high school, it gets harder and that gap becomes a little bit more distinct. Secondly, I think that the single parent households and the absent fathers in many households actually affects discipline, because when you have that kind of an environment, it's very difficult to get teenage boys to stay on track, to stay on discipline. And because the instant gratification that is suggested by rappers, piano artists, DJs, etc., many young boys think that they can become athletes or become these kind of entertainers, and they try to pursue that to the detriment of their educational attainment. I think that is something that needs to be discussed and something that needs to be explored much further. What have you seen? What are your experiences with the young boys around you? Are they coming correct, or do you think that they're in trouble? Let's have a conversation.